Hello everyone, welcome to the Louis Martini tasting where we are going to be exploring 3 different Cabernets as that is what Louis Martini Winery does, and let me tell you, they do it well. So I'm Christina McClelland, your certified sommelier for the tasting, and I'm a on-premise sales manager for Associated Brands out of Newton, North Carolina. So thank you for joining me today. What we have here is the Louis Martini Sonoma County Cabernet. We're also going to be tasting the Alexander Valley Cabernet as well as the Napa Valley Cabernet. So Louis Martini is really a story about somebody who was willing to learn and willing to work hard, and along the way achieved great success in the wine industry. So Louis Martini actually came over to the United States from Italy when he was 12 years old on a boat by himself. His father was already in San Francisco and had started a fishing company. And so he came over to help and landed in Ellis Island, didn't speak a lick of English, made his way to San Francisco to meet his father, and worked for a couple years with his dad in his fishing company. And they were really known throughout the community. They were a very successful fishing company, so they were really known for not only creating a beautiful business, but also really giving back to their community through something called cioppino. So they would take their scraps, their fishing scraps, and they would make cioppino out of it, and then they would serve their community by making sure that everybody had something to eat. They would use that to barter with for other things, and at some point somebody offered them some Cabernet grapes. So young Louis, he took up the Cabernet grapes, and not letting anything go to waste, he decided he was going to try his hand at making wine. As most winemakers would probably tell you, their first time making wine maybe wasn't their best vintage, but ultimately Louis caught the bug, and he asked his dad if he could go to a winemaking school, and his dad said, absolutely not. We got a fishing company to run here, buddy, and you're gonna stay here and help me do this. So being a crafty little guy, he made up an excuse to go back to Italy to visit his mom, and conveniently somehow made it into wine school while he was there. He passed with flying colors, learned very quickly, and eventually brought that knowledge and that experience back to San Francisco with his dad. So as soon as he got back, back into the fishing company, but he started making wine basically on the backside of their house, and they already had a great customer base to work off of with their fishing company, and so they would sell fish and then also offer their wine. And very, very quickly, the community realized that the Martini family was making fantastic wine, and they eventually outgrew their small little winery operation on the backside of their house, ultimately purchasing land and just expanding from there. And really the rest is history. So, when they expanded, they were actually already in the start of Prohibition in 1922, but they really didn't let that stop them. And as a lot of wineries in the time did, they made it through Prohibition by offering grape juice concentrate, which I believe he called the forbidden fruit. That was the name of his grape juice concentrate. And then he simply wrote directions on how to make wine at home by putting the word not in front of it. So, do not ferment at such and such temperature. Do not put this in a bottle with a cork. And that sort of process to really show somebody how to make wine at home through his grape juice concentrate, which I think is just fantastic. It's so creative. So all because of that ingenuity and the smarts and just the willingness to learn and work hard has brought us these beautiful Cabernets today. So we're going to start with the Sonoma Cabernet here. And, this is going to be a series of wines that offer you different price points and also a little bit of a different style of Cabernet, as they're all coming from different areas and made just slightly differently in style. So the Sonoma is going to be your most fruit forward, fruit driven. I would like to think of this as really an entry level Cabernet for somebody really learning to explore what it's all about, as it really defines Cabernet beautifully, and it's very, very approachable as well. So this particular Cabernet actually has some Merlot blended into it, and it also has a little bit of Petit Syrah. And this is great because the Merlot adds an element of softness. It mellows out the Cabernet and the Petit Syrah, while the Petit Syrah actually adds a depth and a structure. So all three of those grapes together really play a role in the ultimate blend of this wine and just making it beautiful on the palate. So the wine from an aroma standpoint, you really get a lot of berries, raspberry, blackberry. I get plums. It's definitely more of a red plum. So in Sonoma and Alexander Valley area, we're going to find there tends to be a lot more red fruit, where Napa, you start to get more deeper, darker black fruits in wine, particularly in Cabernet. This wine also sat for 16 months on French and American oak. And, the difference between the two is American oak is a looser grain. It provides a lot more robust oak influence. And you also get very unique notes that are unique to American oak, like toasted coconut, dill, cream soda. And French oak is a tighter grain wood, so it's a lot more subtle. You get a lot of these baking spices, and it really is just a softer style oak in the wine. So combining the two is just another way to create an individual style for the winemaker in exactly how he wants his wine to be expressed. Again, it's a really fruit-driven wine, and all of the grapes are being sourced from Fry Ranch, which is in Dry Creek Valley, and also a vineyard called Borelli Creek, which is in Alexander Valley. So this is the Louis Martini, Sonoma County Cabernet, a beautifully fresh, fruit-driven style of Cabernet. The next Cabernet that we're going to go into is the Alexander Valley. This is definitely one of my personal favorites. And, Alexander Valley for Cabernet, for red wine, really is known for providing a very rich and voluptuous style of fruit. Ultimately, it's a little bit warmer of a climate, just a touch warmer, and opposed to like Napa. And so that really allows the grapes to ripen well. It gives a great balance of acidity and tannin, and this just creates a really nice mouthfeel. The thing with Alexander Valley is that the wines coming from there tend to drink really, really well younger, but they don't necessarily have that same ageability factor that you might get out of Napa. So currently this is a 2016 from Alexander Valley, and it's drinking beautifully right now, and I'm sure it will for the next couple of years. But this may be one that you want with the intention of drinking right away or within a relatively short period of time rather than holding on to it. So in Alexander Valley, the alluvial soils that are there, they really impart a rich chocolate note specifically to Cabernet that you often get, and I certainly get it on the nose of this wine. The winemaker also added just a touch of Petit Syrah, a splash. It's about 95% Cabernet and then just this 5% splash of Petit Syrah. So really what that tells me is the Cabernet for this particular vintage was absolutely beautiful. The weather lined up perfectly. The grapes across the board, wherever they were being pulled from, the individual lots, they all ripened beautifully. The wine itself is incredibly expressive. The fruit is expressive and rich as it is. And so not a lot had to be added to help beef up any kind of structure, as the Cabernet itself was just wonderful across the board, giving us a great representation of the grape. So the fruit for the Alexander Valley is coming again from Borelli Creek, and the winemaker, Michael Eddy, he really sees this as a hidden gem for Cabernet out of Alexander Valley. They have beautiful sloping vineyards with great gravelly soils that Cabernet really loves. They're well drained. And so this is just, again, another factor that plays into creating a beautiful grape, perfect just for almost completely 100% Cabernet, just that little splash of Petit Syrah there. It's 18 months on French and American oak, so we've got a good time on oak here, lending to a really nice structure. And the notes that you get are a plum. We are starting to get like some black currant, some black cassis in here. I would say, again, we're sticking with some of that red fruit, red plum rather than purple plum going into the wine as we're still in the Alexander Valley, Sonoma area. And you really start to get a little bit more oak influence here, more layers of oak. So the Sonoma, I believe, had about 16 months on oak, where this stays for 18 months. So it's really fruit-driven style still coming out of Alexander Valley, but it just has a little bit more depth, a little bit more layers of oak compared to the Sonoma. So it's a great step up and in an upwards direction. It's a beautiful wine. Okay, and then lastly, we have our 2016 Napa Valley Cabernet coming from Louis Martini. So the Napa Valley, this is definitely a wine if you're looking for something to age a little bit longer. This wine can definitely age for 10 plus years, and it's really the wine itself where the grapes are mostly being sourced, Sun Lake, Sage Canyon. They're a little bit higher off the valley floor, and the fruit coming out of there really, again, ripens beautifully to full ripeness, has a wonderful balance of acidity and tannin, creating the perfect structure to age well. And in this wine, we start to get way more into the dark fruits. We start to get ripe, dark plum rather than that red plum. We start to get the black currants or creme de cassis. And I get like a dried crushed herb note too, sage, rosemary, thyme, something like that. That would go great with a lot of different red meat entrees. And this particular Napa Valley Cabernet is incredibly rich. It's full and it has a beautiful long finish. Just that exquisite structure that we're looking for an ageable wine. Man, the tannin is there, but mid-palate, it really is expansive, and it just fills your mouth cheek to cheek. It's soft and silky. I love this wine. So, here is a fantastic look at 3 different Cabernets, all coming from Louis Martini Vineyard. And there's an option for every style, every price point, and they even have more options than this at your local wine shop or from the winery itself. So I hope you enjoyed this look into Louis Martini Cabernet, and it's certainly one of my absolute all-time favorite vineyards, and I hope you really enjoyed it. Until next time.